Hello, Jessica here, and welcome to my storybook. Tonight, this is the chapter 10, part 10 of this book called Dog Whisper, The Rescue. Tonight, I'll be reading chapter 19 and chapter 20 in this book. Chapter 19. When she was getting ready for bed later that night, her mother came into her room. Her expressions were so concerned that Emily knew her father must have told her all about their conversation. Are you all right? She asked. Emily nodded. I know I can't do anything about the tourists, her mother said. But do you want me to speak to Miss Grimsworth? Emily shook her head very hard, because her mother probably will stomp right down there and comfort her. No, no, definitely not. She was just grunty, you know, mean and intimidating too, but mostly just crinkly and unfriendly. Besides, the other lady bothered me way more, because the whole time she thought she was being very nice, because it was her first thought, her mother said. Yeah, Emily nodded, like I was the only black person she'd seen up here, and that was all that made sense. Then again, as far as she knew, she was the only African American in Bailey's Cove, or Broccoli, or wherever it was that she was. I can't stand it when you and I are out somewhere together, and people look around for you for their parents when, when I'm standing there. Her mother said, what's happened a lot. Usually, when they were around a bunch of strangers, her mother made a point of standing close by and keeping a hand on her shoulder. Then, before anyone had time to ask my potentially dumb questions, she would say something like, have you met my daughter, Emily? And the person will almost look surprised, say, oh, and then said, oh, when they finally figured it out, if it was any sort of college sponsored event, when everyone was losing totally into being politically correct. Emily had noticed that people seemed to be faintly and disappointed when they saw her father, and it turned out that he was consistently still an African American. Maybe they thought adoption was less interesting somehow. You seem to be thinking about all of it a lot, a lot more. Instantly, her mother said, breaking into silence. That was true. Although she wasn't sure why exactly she thought about she thought about it all the time, but she usually didn't bring it up in a conversation. Maybe because school is starting, Emily said, and, well, all those new people she didn't know who were going to see her as a doctor first before they saw her as Emily, or as African American first, instead of as a person named Emily. Her mother nodded. And, well, another birthday too, Emily said, and there won't be anything, no card, or note, or printed, or best of all, phone card. Her mother signed. I know, that part is especially hard, isn't it? Very hard. And it always hurt her feelings, even though the lack of contact no longer surprised her. Year in, year out. She assumed that her both mother at least thought about her briefly on her birthday, because it had to be hard for to forget having had baby once. As far as her birth father was concerned, she had no idea. But from what little sister had gathered. Her sense was that he had never been involved with any of it, and might not even know that he existed, which was really real. If it was true, if we find out, he would be glad, or completely horrified to know that he had an unwanted child walking around out in the world or all these years. Troy is an especially big one, too, her mother said. So I think we should really go out. So I think we should really go all out, don't you? When school started, I don't think any of your cousins come close down. But let's ask Grandma and Gramps and Grammy and Grandma to fly in. Grammy to fly in, which was all of her living grandparents. Since her mother's father had died when Emily was 7, had a big celebration, and then they can meet too. They can meet Zach too. Does that sound fun? Emily nodded accountably. It sounded very fun. The next morning, hold on just a second. Yeah. Okay. The next morning, they took Zachary to the vet for a quick checkup. Dr. Kansalowski was very pleased with his progress, and his only instructions were to keep doing exactly what they were doing. He also told them, to Emily's delight, that no one anywhere in the state had reported losing a white retriever, and that they could probably safely assure that he had indeed been a stay. On the way home, her father went by the town hall so that they could go in and get an official dog license to go along with Zach's new rabbi tag. Zach seemed to like his tag because when Emily took him for his walk at lunch, he shook his head every so often and the tags would jingle or soften together. Every time they went out, he always seemed to walk towards Mr. Griswold's house. In fact, he ventured that way so argumentally counting that she wondering if he might be the dog version of a left-handed. It would explain his unknown tendency to want to walk down there. But since she didn't want to look for trouble, she tried to make a point of steering them in the opposite direction. Today, the strategy backfired because as they walked along towards the access wall, she could see a feminine figure in a fishing hat panhandling towards them on a black bicycle. It always looked painful when Miss Griswold rode because of whatever was wrong with her legs. And right now, she was also weighed down by 3 bags of groceries and supplies. Emily's first thought was to bend down to tie her shoe so she could pretend that she hadn't even seen her. But Zach was waggling his tail happily, so she swarming her up her nose and waved. Miss Grinchwood looked shocked enough that Emily thought she might fall right off the bike, but then she lifted one hand briefly before patting harder and continuing past them. The fact that she had just had friendly exchange with the meanest person in town was something Emily was probably going to keep to herself. Emily had never been too sure about what she liked. Kayaking, but her mother talked her into going for a short excursion on the time before sunset, and they had a good time. The weather was choppy enough to be interesting, but not so rough that it was scary. They rode in a yellow two-person car that was supposed to be really stable, but Emily still almost managed to capsize them when she dropped her paddle and longed to grab it. Her father stood on the dock the whole time and took a bunch of pictures. Zach wanted next to him, and when they were closing down to the shore, she could hear her whining instantly and shouted, "It's okay, Zach. We're having fun." All of the powder made her arms tight, and she had no idea how her mother, who was just barely over 5 feet tall and very thin, did so officers. She even won races sometimes, and in the den, there was a small shelf filled with her trophies. There was a small shelf filled with her trophies. Emily had never won a trophy that she thought was worth anything, because in her swim class, everyone had been given one. She did get a blue ribbon at an art show once. Thought it was pretty proud of it. Her parents wanted her to enter more art contests and shows, but she was never sure if the drawings and paintings were good enough, and wasn't sure she wanted to be all competitive about it. Anyway, it was more fun just to draw and not worry about what other people thought of her pencils. Zach still couldn't climb the stairs, although he had started trying, but was whimpering and had to be helped back down before he got very far. So she was still sleeping in the den to keep him company. Since the floor really was pretty hard, her mother had started making it up the counts every night, and with a little help, Zach could get up there too now. So far, the only one who ever really slept in a homeland bad dog bed was Josephine. Before Emily went to sleep that night, she read 3 chapters of Fiend Era. Her friend Florence had told her that it was old fashioned and boring, but so far, Emily liked it a lot, especially compared to Little Woman, which had kind of ignored her, because she thought Beth was actually pretty winning, though there was winning. There were more books on that waiting list too, but so far she had mostly been choosing the classic ones. The next book on her list was Wuthering Heights. After giving Zach a biscuit and Josephine a couple of little chicken flavors treats, Evelyn turned off the lights and climbed back under the sheet and blankets on the couch. Once she fell asleep, she had a really bad dream and couldn't seem to wake herself up. She was on an old boat in the middle of the ocean, and it was either dusk or right before dawn. Either way, it was pretty dark, and the seas were rough. The deck was clogged with coils of rope, piles of nets, line haulers, witches, and a lot of other gear, so that there was almost no room to move around. The boat was tossing wildly on the waves, and she could smell the strong odor of fish storing in the hold and rooting back. Some of the waves were too high that they were washing way over the side of the boat, and she looked for a place to hide. It was hard to keep her footing, and she kept slipping as she scrambled around. There was there was Don Golden light inside the pilot house. and she could see two big shapes moving around inside. People, people. It was hard to see clearly, but if she could get inside there, she would be sheltered from the rays. She banging on the door, but they didn't seem to hear her, or they didn't care that she was outside, being battered by water and wind. The way the boat was pitching back and forth, she was sure she was going to fall overboard or be swept off the next time a big wave. Emily woke up, gasping with fear, before realizing that it was only another bad dream. That she was fine and not trapped on some unknown fishing boat. The couch seemed to be moving, and she saw that Zach was very restless too, whimpering and shivering in his sleep, with his paws twisting him violently. Zach, she said, and patted him lightly. Zach, wake up. Boy, it's okay. He opened his eyes, looking as confused and frightened as she had felt a moment early, and she came as strong and stern realization. It wasn't a bad dream of hers. She had just been having that nightmare. Chapter 20. In the middle of the night, the idea that she and Zach had the same dream had been really spooky. In the morning, with the sun out and the smell of breakfast floating into the room, it seems more like something she must have made up. A dream within a dream, maybe. She and her mother spent most of the morning reading in the garden, while her father mumbling something about a very important history journal he was sure he had left in his office over at the college and simply escaped through the desk cord. Emily was that she come up with a good exercise too, but when she trembling pointed out that she should maybe go through some more reading so that she would be prepared when school started. Her mother just said, join the club. The whole time, Zan lay on the grass nearby, sometimes watching, but mostly napping. It still isn't going to grow, is it? Her mother asked when they were finally finished and have it so far. So probably not. It looks most mellow now. Now, Emily said. Emily laughed, since that was a huge understatement. No one would ever accuse her mother of putting out a halfway effort on anything. they had homemade they had homemade onion soup for lunch. It was really good because they used $1 on this and salted them very, very slowly. Then they toasted a slice of French bread in their oven, covering them with grilled cheese, and added them to the bowls. My son strays confidences or not, her father manages to arrive back home priceless in time to eat with them. To took to you quite a while to find out Geordie, her mother said wearily. Her father nodded, his eyes looking wide and innocent and a tiny bit sky behind his glasses. I know, it sure did. I really need to straighten that office out, don't I? Well, when it comes time to clean the garbage. Well, when it comes time to clean the garage. Her mother said, I'm going to misplace a book in my office. If they, if they had a garage cleaning day, Emily might have to figure out some way to misplace health stuff for a few hours. After they finished lunch, her father immediately began to do the dishes, which was a smart part, which was a smart piece of filler. Her mother went upstairs to do some work on her own, and Emily took Zach for a walk. When they got to the wall, he wanted to go left, and she wanted to go right, as usual. But she had no intention of following his lead. For one thing, if he decided to lift his leg or something against Miss Griswold's prints, she will already imagine how badly that might turn out. So they went right, but he seemed reluctant and lagging behind her. Does your leg hurt? She asked. Or low webs. Zach wagged his tail, but didn't pick up his pace. She started to say something, but then she had this sudden amaze of Miss Griswold sitting alone in her living room. The only light was coming from the television, and she looked incredibly sad. The amaze was so vivid that she stopped walking and tried to figure out why it had popping into her head like that. The dog looked up at her with a great intensity. Then he turned around, clobbering over his cast, to head in the other direction. No, Zed, she said, we're not going that way. We're not. No way. He pulled in one direction, and she tugged him gently in the other. After about a minute, the dog gave in, but instead of carrying his tail high, it settled down. She decided to ignore that, but it only walked for about 10 steps. She stopped again, putting her hands on her hips. Zach, I don't want to walk up there. She'd like to be left alone, and we really shouldn't bother her. The dog looked at her unblinkingly. Well, she does like it, Emily said defensively, because if she didn't, why would she keep to herself for years and years and go out of her way not to be friendly to people? It had to be an intentionally choice, right? And she doesn't like us. Remember, she doesn't like anyone. But now she had an even stronger remains of Miss Griswold. Her expression haunted and learned, sitting at her kitchen table and staring down at a cup of coffee. It was probably her imagination, but it felt almost as though she was looking at the little perverted snapshot of her neighbor's life, and it was distributable. And it was also distributing that she didn't know if it was coming from her imagination or Zach's. To make it go away, she would just make herself come up with a different amaze. Emily closed her eyes and pictured them walking by Miss Griswold's house. As they passed, Miss Griswold came out onto her porch and shouted at them and shook her cane aroundly. Then she even picked up a rock and threw it at them. The dog sat down, clocking his head at her. Maybe she wasn't charging it hard enough. Emily made herself reimaginable the scene with lots of details. The sun of black flies and synagogues, the small wild berries, and the ocean the way the dull wool felt under their feet. This time when she got this time when she got to the part where Miss Griswold threw the rock and she had the stone hit her right in the shoulder as Zach stood by her horror. But then, even as she tried to keep the dark pictures in her head, she couldn't shake an instantly amazed of Miss Griswold on the same porch, smiling and waving at them. And Crackles. She had a clear version of Cincinnati's. Grand Crackles, holding a crown palace. From before the brand with discarding upsetting Marines everywhere, anywhere, anyway. For some reason, She couldn't stop thinking of Crackles. It was pretty unnerving because the thoughts were so strong and special, and she couldn't seem to get rid of them. Also, even though she just finished a big lunch, she was certainly very, very hungry, feeling confused and kind of overwhelmed by the way her thoughts were jumping all around to weird places. Emily sat down on an old tree stump by the side of the road. The dog followed her completely and flopping down in the grass. It must have felt very warm and comfortable down there, because his paws flapped happily and he trumpeted his tail a couple of times. This whole situation was just getting too confusing. Was she really thinking her thoughts, and was her thinking her thoughts, and were they actually having the exact same nightmares sometimes, or was she making all this up? Was there any way to find out for sure? Because, increasingly, the entire concept was really making her nervous. Either she was really on her daughter's mind, or she was crazy, or possibly both. Zach, are we inside each other's heads? She asked out loud. Because it feels that way, the dog rolled playfully in the grass, looking happier than ever. Did I have your dream last night? She asked. Because I think I did. Okay, she must be making it up. Because he was obviously thinking his own thoughts and having time, very nice time doing it. Crackles. She keeps seeing crackles on a white plate, all kinds of crackles, powers of them. She didn't mind crackles, but it wasn't like she was crazy about them. So why couldn't she get them out of her head? Out of her head. She looked down at Zach, who was still lonely in the grass, just as happy as a corn. Although, having watching people dig up clams at low tide for jails, the expression had never made sense to her, because how happy could they really be? Their lives didn't seem particularly interesting or rewarding. Do you like crackles? She asked him. Do you want crackles? Zach looked up at her with a dull version of a big smile. Was that a yes? It would be a lot easier. It would be a lot easier if we could talk, and she could find out for sure what was going on. Okay, she will try once more, and then give up for the day. Empty put on hand over her eyes to try and shut the rest of the world out, and imagine herself standing up and walking down the walk directing towards Miss Griswold's house, opening her gate and walking up to the front door. There was a jingle of melted tags as Zach screaming, screamingly to his feet and straining at the least, clearly in a hurry to get moving. She could pretend that wasn't a very clear response, but it would be a lie. It looked like they were going to have. It looked like they were going to have to go by walk by Miss Griswold's house again. I have read chapter 19 and chapter 20 in this book. Tomorrow, I will be reading chapter 21 and chapter 22 in this book in part 11 called The Whisper, The Rescue. Till then, take care and God bless. See you tomorrow.